My son is a huge fan of the Disney movie Moana, and one of the main characters is voiced by The Rock. It's actually Maui, the demigod, and he runs around with an awesome giant fish hook as a weapon. And I figured, you know what, I can make one of those, and in fact, I made one from a 2x4, and here it is.
Hit it!
We'll start by making the template. I just freehanded the design on a piece of plywood until I was happy with the look. Feel free to download our printable template if you like the shape that I came up with. Next, I cut up a single 2x4 into segments that completely overlay the hook. Because 2x4s are heavily rounded over, I used the joiner to clean up the edges a bit before gluing them together. While the glue dries, we can cut out the template. I use the bandsaw, but a jigsaw might be a better option. Using a rasp, I do the final shaping and smoothing of the edge. Now we can trace the shape onto the blank and cut it out at the bandsaw. It's not a bad idea to drill a few relief holes in the areas where the blade might have trouble making the turn. I like to use a rasp to refine the shape. To shape the hook, I'll draw some reference lines. That includes a center line on the faces, a center line on the edges, and a couple of lines about 1/4 inch down from each face. You can do all of this with a rasp, but power carving is much faster. I'm using an angle grinder with a Holy Galahad grinding disc. Now I'm creating a very light round over roughly from the face center line to the 1/4 inch line on the edge. Do this on both sides. From the movie screenshots that I've seen, it looks like the top tail of the hook gets quite a bit thinner and flatter. So I mark a line to represent the transition point. Everything above that line will be thinned out and sloped to the edge center line. At a certain point, it's just too risky to use the grinder, so I'll do my final refinement with the rasp. By the way, this is a 2x4, so there are quite a few holes and pockets that I'll need to fill with CA glue. The handle area is pretty close to round, so I'll do some heavy roundovers. At the base of the handle, keep the protruding bone areas thick for now. Now we'll mark the areas where the handle will get thinner. You don't really need to do this, but I think it looks better if the rope handle wrap doesn't sit high above the surface. I use a saw to cut about 1/8 of an inch deep on all sides of the handle. With a chisel, I can carefully pare into the saw line to help establish the recess. If the grain starts fighting you, just change direction. To carve the recess, I'll use my die grinder and a long cylindrical grinding bit. The end of the handle should look like a bone, and it has 2 pieces of rope going down the center, so I'll round everything over and create a little channel for the rope. Now I can refine the rest of the hook with a rasp. With the workpiece in a vise like this, it's pretty easy to spot any high areas, which makes it easier to maintain symmetry. You can see even at this stage, I still have my center line intact. I try to keep all of my lines in place for as long as possible. As much as I'd like to make the tail super thin and crisp, I know this is going to be a major weak point as it is, so I try to keep it a little bit more on the blunt side. The whole thing gets a sanding to 180 grit, using the sander wherever possible, and the final sanding is done by hand. Now we can draw the etchings. I used some high-res screen caps sent to me by a really nice guy named Joe Simone on Instagram, just for reference. I didn't really stress too much about this. Thankfully, the drawings in the actual movie are really rough and they kind of look like they were drawn by a child, or a 40-year-old man with no drawing skills. So I had no problem replicating and freestyling a bit. I kept the designs roughly the same on both faces, but there's definitely some variation. Now you can either carve your lines with a rotary tool, or use a burning tool like I am. I like the burning tool better because it not only carves a recess, but also burns the wood, giving an awesome color. If you carve, you'll have to add a few extra steps to the finishing process in order to highlight the recesses. This burning technique is called pyrography, and it does have a bit of a learning curve. You have to find the right balance of heat, speed, and pressure. If the pen is too hot, or if you go too slow, you'll scorch the wood and burn in a deep hole. Even once you get the hang of it, the wood tends to push the pen in whatever direction it wants to go. And especially using this 2x4 lumber, we have lots of varying densities as well as sap pockets to contend with. In one of the patterns, I sneak in my son's initials as a bit of an Easter egg. Now the entire hook gets a light sanding with 220 grit. Be sure to vacuum the dust out of the grooves. Since the handle is supposed to be bone, I'll paint the two nubs with white lacquer. The rest of the hook gets several coats of rattle can lacquer in a satin finish. After the finish dries, I wrap some 3/8 of an inch rope around the handle. Hot glue works really well to hold the rope in place. Once the rope is high on the little nub, I wrap the rope over to the other side. This causes a directional change in the wrap pattern, and now we can start working our way to the bottom of the handle on a slight angle. At the bottom, I cut 2 small pieces that wrap across the center of the bone. And finally, the rope is cut and the end is firmly glued in place. Yeah, it's a toy made from a 2x4, but I actually got more satisfaction out of this than I did when I made my sculpted rocking chair. I built it for you. You're welcome. Did you like it? Now the only challenge is making sure he doesn't destroy the house with it. So we only hit soft things, okay?
Alright, like the couch.
Like the couch.
Nobody on it.
Wish me luck.
Yeah.
So now, if you're intimidated by all of that carving and sculpting, keep in mind, all you really need to do is take this template, print it out, and put it on a piece of 3/4 inch ply, round over the edges, and most kids are gonna be perfectly happy with that. Would you rather have this one instead of that one?
No.
You sure?
No.
Come on, it'll be fine. Here, go ahead. Let's trade. Isn't that better? Yeah, see? Kids would love it. So either way, don't be intimidated. Just, I think the important thing with this is make something awesome that your kid can enjoy. And here, I'm gonna give you your hook back and let you go destroy the house. Here you go. Give my template back. You can have your hook.
Are you just kidding?
I am just kidding.